What is up, Packers Nation? Happy schedule release day. Excited to be here chatting with you guys, breaking everything down from a schedule standpoint. Obviously, we'll kind of do more of a deep dive into it tomorrow for the actual episode tomorrow. So you can kind of look forward to that. But happy to answer any questions that you guys have about it. And then we'll kind of go through, I'm sure, a variety of other topics as well. And yeah, just kind of initial gut reactions to the schedule before we get to kind of the Q&A portion of everything. I think it's a workable schedule, but it's definitely a difficult schedule. As far as opponents go, like, who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. We don't know anything about that, right? Some of these teams, just look back to last year. You got the schedule last year and you're looking at Miami and San Francisco in like November, December. You're like, man, that's going to be a really tough stretch. And then you get to the season and Miami is not what you expected. San Francisco is on like a third string quarterback and you have basically cakewalk through both of those teams. So you never quite know what the actual opponent is going to be like. So I care less about what it looks like on paper. I care about early season stuff. I do think those first two games, Washington and of course, to start the season right away against Detroit, like those are tough opponents right off the gate. You're going to get both of those games at home. You're going to want to start strong. You certainly don't want to start 0-2 at home at Lambeau. So I think that's a very interesting beginning of the schedule when you look at their actual opponents for that. But for the rest of it, again, we don't know what these teams are going to look like from an injury standpoint. You drop a quarterback or something like that, and all of a sudden the team looks quite a bit different than what they do on paper as we talk about it on May 14th. But there's a lot of other things that I look at. Rest advantages and disadvantages. Green Bay's at a -2 to 3. -1 to 2 or -2 to 3, did I say? So let me just bring it up here really quick. Negative 1 or 2 day rest disadvantage for the season. Not anything major. They're going to have a 3-day advantage against the Browns, a 7-day advantage against the Bengals, a 3-day disadvantage when it comes to rest. And what I mean by this is the other team will have more days off before they play the game or less days off before they play the game than the Packers do. So again, a 3-day advantage against the Browns, a 7-day advantage against the Bengals, a 3-day disadvantage against the Steelers, a 7-day disadvantage against the Eagles, who have their bye week right before Green Bay, a 1-game disadvantage against the Giants, a 1-day advantage against the Bears, a 1-day advantage against the Ravens, and then a 2 to 3 day disadvantage against the Vikings, depending on when the Packers-Ravens game takes place the week before that, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. Minnesota, I believe, has a Thursday game the week before that. So, it's going to be a slightly disadvantageous schedule from a rest standpoint. That's the first thing I always look at is, do you have more advantages or disadvantages when it comes to rest? Green Bay has just slightly more disadvantages when it comes to rest this season. From a travel standpoint, they're 26th in total miles traveled. That's a really good thing. You don't have a ton of miles, but then I look for any big swings. And when you look at the schedule, there is one big one that always gives me a little bit concerned. It's not the worst. You're not going like all the way West Coast and all the way East Coast, but it is a pretty big swing still where you go week 7 to Arizona. Again, more of a West Coast, hot game in the middle of October. And then week 8, you go all the way back East Coast to face the Steelers in a big time primetime matchup, likely against Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football. So that swing, I always look for those big ones. I think the hardest one was a handful of years ago when you went back-to-back weeks all the way West Coast to Seattle, all the way East Coast to New England. You literally cannot get further games apart than those two. So that's what I guess maybe Florida, New England, or Florida, Seattle, I guess would be. But you get my point. East to West, it's really difficult to get further apart than that. So that's always what you look for as well. Green Bay does have that. You always look for like 3 straight road games. Green Bay does not have anything like that, but they do have a lot of road games to end the season. So you go at New York, then the Vikings at home, at Detroit, Bears at home, then at Denver, at Chicago, Ravens at home, and then at Vikings. So is that like 5 of your last 8 games, I think, are on the road? 1 out of 2, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 5 out of 8. So yeah, 5 out of your last 8 games are on the road to end the season, and 3 of your last 4 are on the road to end the season when you go at Denver, at Chicago, Baltimore at home, and then at Minnesota to end the season. So a lot of road games to end the season. Certainly that big East Coast to West Coast swing. West Coast to East Coast swing. And then slight disadvantage when it comes to rest days. And then the other thing, the very not great part of it is, of course, a week 5 bye week very early on in the season. I believe somebody brought up that Philadelphia had a week 5 bye week a season ago. So maybe it's a good luck charm, if you will. But generally, you want that a little bit more towards the middle of the season, later in the season, hopefully kind of get you prepared for the playoffs. But hey, you just have to deal with the cards that you're dealt. And I think, again, this is a workable schedule for Green Bay, but there's definitely going to be some things that are good and bad about the schedule. Interesting, too, that they released the preseason schedule as a part of this as well. Usually that takes a little bit more time for them to kind of finalize, but preseason schedule is released. The other thing that is a slight disadvantage potentially as well, mostly just for the gold package ticket holders themselves. As you know, most of those are fans that are in Milwaukee. These are the old Milwaukee season ticket holders that now have the gold package. They get the second and fifth games of the season. Well, it just so happens to be that the second game is Thursday night football against the Commanders, and the fifth game is the Monday night game against the Eagles. So 2 primetime matchups. Now, what happens a lot of times is people from Milwaukee don't always want to make that trek back on a night game, right? Because that game goes until 11 p.m. at night, maybe a little bit later. By the time, if you're not familiar, by the time you get out of the parking lot, everything like that, regardless of where you park, can take about an hour to get out of there. And then highways 41 and 43 are just jammed going back to Milwaukee. So there's not really an ideal situation to get back, which makes things very, very difficult. And a lot of people, then basically have to kind of take PTO the next day and end up just, in a lot of those cases, selling their tickets. And then that can lead to, of course, some more visiting fans within those. So just again, this is, difficult for the Milwaukee fans in and of themselves that they're both primetime games, but that could lead to potentially some more Commanders and Eagles fans just at those games because they're specifically night games for the Milwaukee fans. So that's kind of just my initial takeaways. Fun schedule. You start off again right away with the Lions and the Commanders. 2 really tough games at home. You come back against Cleveland on the road, which is a very winnable game. The Cowboys on the road. Green Bay's had a ton of success playing in Dallas. Then you get a bye week and then the Bengals at home. Joe Burrow, the Bengals not going to be an easy game, but again, you're coming off a bye and have a home game. Go to Arizona, tough road game. Certainly going to have to deal with the Arizona Heat, but again, not the hardest opponent in the world. Then you go potentially to the big Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers matchup, Sunday Night Football in Week 8. Come back home against Carolina, one of the, at least on paper, easier games on the calendar. And then Philadelphia Eagles, Monday Night Football at home. Again, Eagles have the bye week the week before. Then you go to New York, tough road game, but it's still a more winnable opponent. You have Minnesota at home, then at Detroit, then Chicago at home in a 3-game NFC North stretch right from November 23rd to December 7th, including back-to-back games in a 4-day period of time at home against Minnesota and then Thanksgiving on the road against Detroit, and then follow it up with a home game against Chicago. Then you go mile high, altitude game late in the season, December 14th against Denver. Then go to Chicago, come back home against Baltimore, and then end the season against the Minnesota Vikings. So lots of things to get to. Let's start with some super chats before we get anywhere else. Autumn says, tough schedule, but at least we'll be primed for the playoffs. I love that mindset, Autumn. Yes. You have to grind through the season and battle and sort of get battle tested throughout the course of the year to kind of prime yourself for those playoffs, like you say. And I think that is hopefully going to get them there. Now, you don't want to be exhausted come the playoffs either. You don't want to have to grind so hard that by the time to get to the playoffs, you have nothing left to give. But I think this should sharpen Green Bay more than anything. And it's going to be, like you said, a very difficult schedule to navigate, but one that I think they're more than capable of navigating. Whalers 860 can't afford to get swept by the Vikings and Lions again. No, you cannot. I mean, that's just starting the season 0-4, not specifically to start the season, but get my point. If you say right now that they get swept by both, you're basically saying they're going to have an 0-4 record, at least at some point. You've got to make up the rest in those games. So no, have to be much better against the division in 2025. No question about it. Let's take a quick break from schedule because this is a really interesting topic of conversation. Randy says, all these talking heads advocating for an NFL draft lottery are giving me a migraine. The modern NFL's success is built on parity. All right. I have a slightly unique kind of take / twist on this. The first thing I will tell you is very much agree with everyone in that there's no need for this. It works as is. You don't need to do anything. Probably the best case scenario is to just keep it as is. Okay. Let's start there. That should be, I think, the clear and obvious piece. But here's my two interesting spins on this. Number one, why I expect it to potentially happen at some point. The NFL loves ratings. They love being talked about. They love dates on the calendar that people can get excited for. And if you are not paying attention to like the NBA, like what the NBA draft lottery like took over the other night, it was what everyone was talking about. Cooper Flag, the Mavs get it. There's conspiracy theories. If you don't think that the NFL would like to get in on that business and add another day to their calendar that everyone's freaking out about and adding an NFL draft lottery, I don't know, maybe do it right before the Senior Bowl. You put the Senior Bowl on NFL Network, have it be broadcast right before the Senior Bowl, and then have the Senior Bowl right after it. Now you get a huge spike from the ratings and the draft lottery, and then everyone watches the Senior Bowl right after because they're immediately thinking draft from it. I could easily see them doing something like that. If the Pro Bowl isn't generating enough buzz, put it the week before the Super Bowl, have it be right there as, again, teams start kind of transitioning to draft mode. You could put it anywhere in the middle between the end of the Super Bowl to before the draft, and it is going to be a major must-see event as we get all the ping pong balls together and see who actually gets the top, 18 picks in the draft. So 32 teams. There are 14 playoff teams. So yeah, 18 teams that would potentially be in that draft lottery that didn't make the playoffs. That would be a must-watch TV. I'm not saying, again, it's better. I'm just saying everyone would be watching. It would be another huge talking point. If you don't think the NFL wants in on that business, I would say you're probably sadly mistaken. Here's the one thing I'll add about this. From a Packers standpoint, purely, okay? The Packers have one of the strongest foundations of a franchise in the NFL. That doesn't mean that things cannot go horribly wrong. It has certainly happened before. See the 1980s as an example of that. But it's not to say that things can't go terribly, but the Packers have an incredibly strong foundation. It would take some pretty catastrophic stuff for Green Bay to be a team that finishes in the bottom three of any season, probably a litany of injuries. And even then, we saw last year, the Packers were able to survive multiple Jordan Love injuries throughout the course of the season. Malik Willis plays. Like, we've even seen it before with the huge swaths of Brett Hundley. Like, they still find ways to survive, and they're still not going to be a bottom-feeding team, right? I'm not saying, again, things couldn't happen down the road, but from a purely Packers point of view, the Packers down seasons are usually what, like 6-11, 7-10? If you're telling me now that the Packers actually have that Dallas Mavericks 1.8% chance, whatever it might be, to get the number one pick or could move up within the top four of a given draft just because they didn't finish in the playoffs, despite not being one of the bottom four teams, from a purely Packers standpoint, how many top five picks have they had since the, Favre era? One, AJ Hawk, right? That's it. The fifth pick. That's the highest that they've picked. I mean, basically, since I've started watching football, and it's been a pretty long time now. So they don't get to pick up there all that often. From a purely Packers standpoint, a draft lottery is actually probably very good for Green Bay. So just to recap really quick, not advocating for it per se. I think it's probably best as is. I don't think you need to break something or try to fix something that's not broken. If I were voting on it today, I would say just leave it, okay? But I do think that there would be another date on the calendar that would be must-watch NFL TV, and I'm sure the NFL would love to have that. And I will say this, I do think it is advantageous for the Packers to have a draft lottery because it's very rare that they are a bottom-feeding, one of the worst 3 to 4 teams in football, and now they're going to have an opportunity to get a top 5 pick without having to be a bottom 5 team. Again, probably good from a Packers point of view. All right, let's move on. I want to get to those other super chats here in just a moment, but Spider Monkeys asked if we restructure Jair's contract and void the final 2 years so we get a comp pick, and thoughts if he balls out 1 year, then signs 20 per year deal. So I'd have to go and look at the comp pick formula. If they really like sort of restructure the contract and redo it and make it so that next year is like a non-contract year, and they just like, you have to be careful with that because I think there's things in the CBA where you can't make contracts shorter. So they might have to extend it, but make it a void. If it's a void, depending on when it voids, I think you can still be a comp pick, but I have to look into that a little bit more, Spider Monkeys. as to how that would potentially work from a comp pick formula point of view. As far as whether or not he balls out and then signs some sort of like $20 million deal, listen, if he balls out this year and they figure out a way to restructure his contract and they get that out of Jair, man, I will be so freaking happy in and of itself. I won't really care about much else. So if they figure out a compromise where he makes a little bit less this year, but he gets to be a free agent next year, and then he just gets to play a huge chunk of this season in Green Bay and goes out and dominates and gets a huge contract somewhere else next year, I'll take it. I mean, that's one of the best case scenarios that you could possibly have given the scenario that the Packers and Jair Alexander are in right now. So regardless of what the comp pick formula would say, and if he goes out and signs with another team for a huge contract, I would take that outcome as still one of the better possible outcomes of this entire Jair Alexander saga at the moment. Gary, thank you for the super chat. We suck early in the season, and to start with a rivalry game again, then a Thursday game immediately puts us behind the 8 ball at 0-2. So ridiculous. I mean, Gary, that's not an excuse. You can't just be like, hey guys, we're bad early in the season, so please schedule us easier opponents. Like that's on that onus is on Green Bay to figure that out and play better. Whether that means you've got to play guys more in preseason, whether that means you have to take a different approach to getting ready for the year. Listen, the NFL is telling you you're going to have two of the tougher matchups that you could possibly have, albeit at home in Green Bay, over the first 4 days of the season. Detroit at home, Washington at home, Sunday and Thursday. You're going to have those games. You better be ready. They're like, you can't cry. You can't cry over the NFL scheduling that in that way. The NFL schedule makers can't be like, oh, let's see here. Oh, Green Bay rests their starters in preseason, and they usually start off pretty slow. So let's give them Cleveland and Carolina to start the season. Like, it just doesn't work that way. They've got a tough schedule all throughout. There would be very few teams that you would face in that week one. I mean, you're going to have multiple games against Minnesota, Detroit. You've got Philly on the calendar. You've got Washington on the calendar. You know, Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's not an easy game. Dallas is not an easy game. I mean, Baltimore's not an easy game. They were probably going to end up with two tough opponents in the first 2 weeks, almost no matter what. You don't get to choose when your tough games are, and you don't get to be just a bad team in the first couple weeks of the season and say like, well, sorry, we struggle a little bit early. So no, get off to a stronger start. The gauntlet is laid for you. You're going to have two games that are going to massively alter the NFC this year in Washington and Detroit early on in the season. You better be freaking ready for it. And the Packers better be ready to go against tougher opponents more than they were a season ago. That was their MO last year. They couldn't beat good teams. Well, guess what? You get two really tough teams in Green Bay right away to start the season. Gauntlet's laid down. Challenges in the sand. The line is there. Cross it. Dominate it. Let's see them go 2-0. I want to see them start strong this year. Do what you need to do to start strong. I would certainly not have the mentality of they're off to an 0-2 start. And if they are, it's their own damn fault. It's certainly not the schedule makers. Jason, seems like getting the Lions week one at home before they presumably catch their stride with new coordinators might be a big advantage. Potentially. I like the way that you're looking at it. There is, I'm sure, going to be a learning curve. However, what I would also say is that you are going against two coordinators without any tape on them whatsoever. These are going to be two completely unscouted. Now, they're going to take a lot of what Ben Johnson did on offense. They're going to take a lot of what Aaron Glenn did on defense. Neither of these are going to be a complete reinvention of the offense. They're not having Jared Goff in this defense for Detroit completely learn a new scheme or anything like that. But you don't have any sort of tendencies, and you don't have any tape to go off of for either of these play callers in Detroit. So that will make things a little bit more difficult, whereas Green Bay, it's the second year of Halfley. We know what Matt LaFleur is about on offense. They have all the tape. Now, in week one, there's plenty of unscouted looks from both teams, no matter what. Each team is going to have some new wrinkles and some new things that they put into their offense and defense respectively. But the counter to your point, Jason, is that they will have two coordinators that are new to them, and Green Bay will have not much to go off of when it comes to that. But I think both of them, there's advantages and disadvantages. And to your point, maybe not having that a ton of time within those offenses and defensive and some of the new things that they're doing could be an advantage for Green Bay for sure. Shane, thank you for the super chat. Love has to have a year this year. Glad he gets to start in Lambeau. Watch some 2023 highlights. If you're a doubter, 10 is going to show up this year. I'm right there with you. I think he's going to have a big year. He's going to have two really great games to start it off against Detroit and Washington to kind of test not only where he is, but where the Packers are as well. I love how the schedule kind of shapes up. I love the challenges early on. I think you get a little bit of a reprieve there in week 3, albeit on the road against Cleveland. They've obviously had a ton of success in Dallas, and then you get a bye week. I was kind of going through this in the Bleacher Report chat, but I look at Detroit, Washington, Cleveland, Dallas. Go 3-1 in those games. I don't care if you lose to Detroit, that's fine. Come back, win on Thursday against the Commanders, beat the Browns, beat Dallas and Dallas. Go 3-1. I think 3-1 would be a very good result to start in those first 4 games. Then you get to the next 4. Bengals are a tough team, but it's at home and it's after your bye week. Then you go to Arizona, to Pittsburgh, and Carolina at home. So if you can get those home wins against the Bengals and the Panthers, you get to split against Arizona and Pittsburgh on the road. You have another 3-1 stretch for your second group of 4 games. Then you've got a stretch of Philly at New York, Minnesota at Detroit. I think this is their toughest stretch. And if you can go 2-2 in those games, I would say you've done a pretty good job. So Philly at home, at the Giants, which is probably hopefully one of your wins. And then Minnesota at home, at Detroit. Go 2-2 in that stretch. And then Chicago at home, at Denver, Chicago on the road, Baltimore. Try to go 3-1 at that stretch. Try to get those 2 wins against the Bears. Split either at Denver or at home against Baltimore. 3-1 in that stretch. So that gets you 3-1, 3-1, 2-2, 3-1 throughout the course of the season. So is that 9-3, 11-5? So you're 11-5 going into the final game of the season at Minnesota, which could theoretically be for the NFC North. If you win that one, you go 12-5. Probably a pretty good record, maybe a chance to win the North with that. I would think that'd be pretty darn close. You lose, you're 11-6. You're probably the 5th, 6th seed, somewhere in that range. But I think that would be a fairly reasonable way to kind of go about gaming out the season a little bit by going through the quarters. But that final one against Minnesota could kind of be the game changer as to whether or not they've got a chance to win that division, end up with a home game early on, and or probably be the road game to start the season and have to go on the road, or start the postseason and have to go on the road for the entirety of the postseason. But that's kind of how I look at it. But I'm all for you with the Jordan Love, and hopefully he has a massive year this year. Request, please read this with your most stern voice and look. With respect to the rest of the schedule, I want the Vikings. I want the Lions. I want the Eagles. I'm not over it. Thank you, sir. R.R. Smith, I don't know if I did a good enough job of that, but you're more than welcome. I want all the sauce. Sign me up for all the sauce. I want the tough schedule. I want to see what Green Bay can do. I have no issue with these tough challenges early in the season. Green Bay's got a good football team. They've got every right to go out and be one of the best teams in football. They've got a lot of talent. They've got, Jeff Hafley year 2. They've got a Matt LaFleur offense that's proven to work. They've got the pieces and the ingredients that they need to be a very successful team. As Brian Gutekunst said at the end of last year, it's about urgency. What does this team want to be about? If you want to be great, you got to work great. You got to work hard. You got to really want it. I think this team does, but we're about to find out very, very fast with those 2 games early on against Detroit and Washington, what this team is all about. Whalers, thanks again. Reed and Dobbs possibly not happy going into a contract year. We possibly could lose both with Green Bay riding on Watson's potential. I hope they don't bail. Well, first of all, Reed's not a unrestricted free agent next year, and he's not in a contract year. So Reed's not going anywhere. He's only in the 3rd year of his 4-year deal. So we're good there. Dobbs possibly not happy going into a contract year. Dobbs has everything to work for. He is in a contract year, and he just saw what Khalil Shakir got from Buffalo. If he takes care of his own business, I mean, he can legitimately still go out and be Green Bay's number 1 wide receiver. He has a great rapport with Jordan Love. I'm not saying that every week that means he's going to be a guy that gets 8 or 9 targets, week in and week out, but he has every right. What did Khalil Shakir get last year? Shakir last year, so he did have a really good season. He had 76 catches. What is that per game? That's 4.5 catches per game for Khalil Shakir. Like Romeo Dobbs can easily average that. 821 yards and 4 touchdowns. If Romeo is anywhere near those numbers, which he has every right to be, he's going to go out and get a 15 to 16 million per year contract, whether it's from Green Bay or for another team. His destiny is in front of him. He just has to go and work and be the receiver that everyone thinks he can be. And if he just has a Khalil Shakir sort of year, he's going to get massively paid, whether it again be from Green Bay or some other team. So if I were Romeo, I would say, all right, don't care if there's a Matthew Golden, a Jaden Reed, a Dontavian Wicks, a Savion Williams. I'm going to go take care of my business. I'm going to go out and have one of the best receiving years that I've had in my career. And I'm going to get a huge second contract from some team. 4 years, 60 million, maybe even more if it's a really good season. So I think Romeo has everything to go out and play for in a contract year. And here's the thing that he has to be cognizant of. He's got sort of one strike against him with that suspension a year ago. Certainly from a Green Bay point of view, but other teams are going to be cognizant of that as well. If all of a sudden he gets something else again this year where he's disgruntled or he has some sort of hold in or hold out or throws whatever sort of situation like he did last year, teams are going to be aware of that. They're going to be less likely to give him a big contract. So if I'm Romeo Doubs, if I'm his agent, I'm saying go out and ball out. That's what's going to get you your biggest contract. And so I would say everything's in front of him. He's got the ability to be a top receiver for Green Bay this year. Go and earn it. Go and do it. It was there for you last year as well. Now it's there again for you this year. Let's see what he can do. And again, Reed's got a year away from free agency, so not concerned about that. And even again, if you lose Watson and Dobbs next year in free agency, you've got Golden, you've got Savion Williams, you've got Dontavian Wicks, you've got Jaden Reed. You still have free agency, and you have a full another draft class next year where you can go out and get a couple more young wide receivers if you want to. So they're going to be in a fine spot. I have no concern over where their receiver depth chart is either right now or in the future. And it's certainly possible that they could get Christian Watson on sort of a 1 year kind of compromise deal. I don't want to say prove it deal because we know what he can do, but sort of a compromise deal for both sides where he comes back to Green Bay, gets to work another year in the offense that he's familiar with, hopefully has a massive year and then could go get a huge contract elsewhere the following year. And then Green Bay gets a solid deal for a returning receiver that they know they really love within this offense. So I think it could make sense for both sides. All right. Tank, what's the best place to get Packers tickets? Me and my friend really want to go to Week 10 matchup against the Eagles. I'm excited to see Lambeau Field for the first time. Yeah, any of the ticket sites, I don't have any promo codes right now. I don't think I have a TickPick promo or any of those still working. But if I do have one, you'll certainly be the first to know about it as we do those ad reads on our audio channel. But for now, I don't think I have any promo codes. But you can always try Pack a Day on any of them. You might find one on like TickPick still that might work, or I think that's probably the one. Or Game Time. Is Game Time? I don't know. Either way, those are probably, gametime.co. You could try either gametime.co or TickPick and try to use code Packaday. One of those might still be active somewhere, but don't have anything else. But just try to find one of those that have a good promo code and get you some sort of discount. Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins, Walker and Ryan, Dobbs, Watson, Quinn, and Igbari rank most likely to be back in 2026. Add Musgrave and Kraft, Reed and Wicks, Wyatt and LVN. Repeat for 20. John, that's a lot of work to do on a schedule release Q&A. Tom will be back next year. Jenkins will be back next year. Walker will not be back. Ryan will not be back. Dobbs will not be back. Watson's a coin flip. Quay will be back. Enigbari will not be back. Musgrave and Kraft will both be back for 27 because they're still, under 27, they'd be free agents. 26, they're in the, this is 25, is the 26. So 27's free agency. Musgrave will not be back. Kraft will be back. Reed will be back. Wicks is a coin flip. Wyatt is a coin flip. LVN's a coin flip. And I'll just put it that way. With Murphy out, what would it take for Matt LaFleur good seats to start getting warm in the next couple seasons? I'm not trying to get rid of either. Hot seat stuff. I would say the first sort of signs of anything would be a missed playoffs this year. Certainly anything worse than that. Like if they went 4-13 this year or something, barring a crazy bad luck with injuries, right? Anything like that would certainly get them in the conversation. I think it would probably take something catastrophic, 2-15, and just Matt completely loses the locker room in order for Matt to lose his job in any way. It would take a catastrophic season. Certainly don't see that coming. And then I think it would probably take anything that's not playoffs and anything that's well below that would certainly bring up a little bit more of the heat going into the following season. And then for Goody, it would probably take even a little bit more than that. I think both of them are in phenomenal standing. And I think it would probably take back-to-back really disappointing seasons this year and next year in order for things to get to that level. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we just don't even have to cross that bridge. Does Lloyd's fumble issue concern you? Not until it concerns me. Not until it becomes an issue. Listen, he had an issue in college. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt up until the point where you can no longer give him the benefit of the doubt. He hasn't had any, fumbles in the NFL. Obviously, he's had very few carries, but Let's see what he does in the NFL. That's usually something that's a little bit workable. But until he has a problem in the NFL, I'm going to pretend that he has no problem. And until he proves otherwise, I'm going to continue on that he is going to take care of the football at an NFL level. And hopefully that's the case. What do you think is going on with Jenkins? I really hope the Packers do everything they can to keep these good linemen around. We got to compete with the Lions and Eagles both. Yeah, I talked about it today on today's episode. If you haven't had the chance to kind of go over that yet, Domovsky's article today basically echoed everything that Wilde said earlier in the week, but just contract related. Probably wants a little bit more guarantees for next year. I think his contract this year is mostly fine. Probably would like a little bit of a bump, but you can probably get through this year. I think it's next year that it's basically a 1 year, $20 million team option. And Jenkins has no leverage, no anything. It's completely the Packers' decision. He would probably like a little bit more structure around that and like a little bit more guarantees around that to make sure that he's not just going to do this 1 year switch to center and then they're just going to cut bait next year. And then he's got to go try to find something on the open market. Or you could end up in a very Jair Alexander situation next year where the Packers do the same thing where, hey, we've got this on a team option. We don't guarantee you anything at any point. We can take this as long as we want. We're going to keep trying to trade you. And until we find a buyer, you're just in limbo. I'm sure he doesn't want to go through what kind of Jair is going through right now. So I think he's just looking out for himself. I think this is one that is probably pretty easy to kind of work around, and they'll figure out a way to maybe switch a little bonus money or add some incentives or something like that to this season, maybe to appease him, get him to play well this year, and then they'll kind of cross that path next year. But it'll be interesting to see how it kind of plays out. 4 of 6 to end the season on the road on top of an early bye. I am not a fan of this schedule. What jumps out to you? So yeah, obviously we kind of went through my initial takeaways, but yes, the end of the season road stretch is not certainly an easy one. Chargers won the schedule release. I've not seen it yet, but I'm excited for it. Have a dilemma, Andy. Packers at Cowboys the same day as the Dublin game. Decisions. Well, I mean, Packers Cowboys is a night game, and Dublin's going to be a very early game. So you could certainly go to Dublin and then watch the game there. Not to fly back or whatever, but you'll still have plenty of time to watch Packers Cowboys later that day if you want to watch it from Dublin, which is never going to be a bad experience either. But yeah, decisions. Good luck on your choice either way. All right. Cheesehead Joey. Does Elgersma count towards the extra international pathway player slot? He does not. Canada does not count towards the international pathway program. And they've got Alex Hale in that spot anyway. So nope, does not count that way. Rizal Douglas time bye week does definitely suck. Pumped about all the primetime standalone games the Packers have this year, which means more time for red zone. Yeah, the only one I don't like, and again, this is just me being, picky or whatever. It's not the end of the world. I kind of low-key hate a 3:15 game at home to begin the season. For me personally, and this is just me being totally selfish, that's about the worst case scenario because I'm going to go to the game, obviously covering it, and then I'm going to get there early. So I'm going to get there a couple hours early, which means that I don't kind of get that noon viewing game experience. I'll probably watch like the first hour, like first half of the game's red zone from home. Then we'll be traveling during kind of the halftime area and then get there and kind of watch like the end of it on red zone as I get to the stadium. But you kind of lose out on that aspect of it of just kind of being able to sit back and relax and watch red zone for those games. Then, of course, there's like 5 good games that are on during that 3 p.m. window. Like there's a lot of good football, but I'll be focusing on the Packers game. And then I'll kind of miss out on Sunday Night Football because the game will go late. I'll have to travel home. And then when I get home, I'll be doing, breaking down the film and doing a live Q&A and those sort of things. So selfishly, I hate that 3:15 p.m. Kickoff on the opening day. I actually low-key love the Brazil game because you still got to enjoy the Thursday Night Football, then all day Sunday plus Monday Night Football, and you just kind of got to enjoy it. But not the worst case scenario. I'll still get to enjoy Thursday Night Football, Friday Night Brazil game, and then a little bit of noon games, and then of course the Monday Night Football as well. But it's still a really fun game. I'm not complaining by any stretch of the imagination. But outside of that, yes, I do love the primetime games and get a little bit more red zone time with some of the other stuff. Trying to pick my game to head up to Green Bay for this year. New Jersey native, was at the 49ers last year. What game would I pick? Ooh, that's a good question. All right. So I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to this stuff. I would probably, if I were a road game fan, the one that I would probably look at pretty heavily would be Packers Bengals October 12th. That to me would probably be the game. Number one, it's a unique matchup, right? So you don't always get Packers Bengals. That's not normally one of like the marquee sort of games or things like that. But it's a really good game. Like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, like a very talented Cincinnati Bengals team coming to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Like it should just be good football, right? It's probably not one that has a crazy high, ticket value where it's like, premium Eagles game on Monday Night Football or something like that. It's a 325 game, and October Packers football is about as awesome as it gets. Not too hot. Some of those September games can get into like the like the mid 80s, high 70s, and sun beaming down at you at Lambeau. It gets very hot in there. And then, of course, later in the year, it gets very cold. This is going to be like probably 40, 50, 60s, somewhere in that range, high 40s, low 60s, anywhere in between there. Just gorgeous fall weather in Wisconsin with a great matchup, not bad ticket prices. That's in a unique sort of matchup, one you don't get every year. I'm taking Joe Burrow coming to Green Bay, playing the Bengals October 12th. That would be the one I would pick. Can't have another slow start. Do we change anything in the preseason to be more prepared? I'm sure Matt is in the lab trying to figure out what he can do. I say every year, I don't think there's a perfect decision. I don't think they came out bad against Philly, by the way. Like I thought that game against Philly and Brazil was a very fantastic football game that could have gone either way. Like I didn't think they came out slow in that game. I thought it was just two really good teams going at it. Certainly some sloppiness, some things that you would like to have back. But at the same token, again, I wouldn't necessarily say that I thought that they were like, oh my God, they're barely even competent in this game or anything like that. And then what was week 2 last year? Then they beat, of course, you've got the Malik Willis game, but they beat Indianapolis in week 2. So I don't think it was like this massively slow start, but I'm sure LaFleur is looking at everything he can. And again, I always say every preseason, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If all of a sudden they play Jordan Love and these starters more and you end up with a torn ACL by any important player, everyone's calling out Matt. Why the hell was so-and-so playing in that game? Now you've got one of your best players with a torn ACL. This coach is an idiot. Fire LaFleur. What are you possibly doing? And everyone's pissed off. You don't play your starters and you lose week 1 and everyone's like, Matt sucks. He never plays his guys in the preseason. What is this guy doing? Fire Matt LaFleur. Every year I say the same thing. If you play your guys in the preseason, you better hope like hell nobody gets hurt. And if you don't play your guys, you better hope like hell you win week 1. Because anything else, and it's usually a nightmare scenario, and everyone's pissed at the coach no matter what. I think it's just an impossible situation. I don't think there's a good answer no matter what. As a Bucs fan who watched them demonstrate an inability to get past the tough teams, I see that we once again have 5 opportunities to beat teams that swept us: Eagles, Lions, Vikings, redemption. And now I get your comment from earlier. Yes, bring on the tough teams. Alec, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for asking. Please, Rodgers, do the right thing. Pittsburgh, it would certainly make for a very entertaining Packers-Steelers game, that's for sure. Whatever Aaron wants to do, Aaron's going to do. I would assume we'll get some sort of update here in the near future. You would seem to read the tea leaves and say, all right, Packers-Steelers Sunday Night Football, maybe that's going to be the case. Although you could put Packers-Steelers on Sunday Night Football pretty much any time, any year, and it's going to usually be a pretty darn good game. But certainly would have a much elevated, urgency of a game if Rodgers was playing in that one. Andy, gold package ticket holder from Illinois, going to need a hotel room twice. Going to be great games, so worth the trip. That is the cool thing, is you do get 2 very, very fun games. Just wanted to clear the record. I think Mike gave me credit for scouting El Gurzma on a chat last week, but it was definitely not me. Wish I would have had that kind of crystal ball. Happy scheduled day. I think we did figure out, but now I forgot who it was. But yes, it's all right. I appreciate you clearing it, Will, though. But either way, we had fun Taylor El Gurzma conversations well before we even knew he was a top 30 visit here in chat, which was very fun. Let's get to Autumn here again, I think it was. All right, which new coach can make the biggest impact this year? That's a great question. I mean, certainly Ben Johnson's going to have the opportunity in Chicago. I have to kind of look at this. It's been so long since I've looked at the new coaches. Mike Vrabel will make an impact in New England for sure. I'm going to say Mike Vrabel. I think Vrabel has the ability to be a big time impact in New England. And I think that team did a lot of really smart things this offseason. I'm not saying they're going to be a great team, but I think they're going to compete every single week and they're going to be a tough out. So I'm going to say Vrabel in New England will be my answer. But Ben Johnson certainly could be in that conversation as well, as much as it pains me to say it. All right, Jason, if you had to handicap it, which undrafted free agent has the best odds to make the initial 3? Stackhouse, I think, is probably the clear and obvious one. Got the biggest signing bonus and has the easiest sort of pathway to it. Jamon Johnson is in that conversation. just because there's not a ton of, there's only 7 linebackers. They could theoretically keep 6. So that's within the realm of possibility. Let's see. Of course, you've got Jonathan Baldwin. There's not a ton of corners. So I think he would probably be either second or third. Him and Jamon Johnson are probably tied for second or third. And then just I'll shout out Amar Johnson as well. I don't think he really has a pathway with the running backs that they have, but he's a good player. And then don't sleep on Tyler Cooper either, the guard. He's a really fun player out of Minnesota. I think he's going to have a chance, but I would take Stackhouse as the leader in the clubhouse. Pack fan from Connecticut. Love the Whalers handle. Love that. Little mutual appreciation in the chat. This is going to get extra tough down the road, but let's hope this team shows fight. They will. They will. Sweeping the Queens 1-0 or 1-1 versus the Lions. Let's see. I like the Packers 2025 schedule. It's a fun one. That's for sure. It's competitive, tough, but it's a fun one. Gonna have to make the 6-hour drive to Pittsburgh. Wonder what tickets will cost for the game if Rodgers indeed does play for them. Yeah, maybe keep an eye on that one a little bit closer to it, because you don't want a situation where you buy him now and then Rodgers gets hurt and then doesn't play and you end up with those tickets for way more than what they should be. But that's it. That's going to be an interesting game if it ends up happening. Packers fan from Texas went to the playoff game in 2023 against Dallas with friends and family, all Cowboys fans. None of them want to go this year for some reason. Hey, there you go. Take those tickets. Let's invade Dallas. I would love to see that. Have some faith, Gary. Could be a great opportunity to go 2-0 and gain some serious momentum, beating 2 really good teams. Totally there with you, Craig. Rodgers won't get signed since most of the teams are good on quarterbacks at this time. Rodgers is going to have to sit this one out from the market. I think he's going to go to Pittsburgh, but we'll wait and see. All right, Manuel at 812 is where I need to get back to. What's good, Andy? Hand up. Wildy, an apology, chalked it up to offseason slot, but he had the Elton story first and seemingly exactly right. My bad. All good, RJ. I don't remember what you said about it, but I always appreciate people taking accountability on stuff. And certainly Wildy and Domovsky are lockstep on the reporting on that one. All right, 812. What do we say, Manuel? All right. I mean, people go crazy over schedule release videos. Of course, it will eventually happen to farm audience and talk. All for the home opener week 1, just preferably on a year where they have 9 home games. Way too many good games at the end of the season or road games. I'm assuming you mean at the end of the season with an early bye. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Let's see if they're up to the challenge. Unacceptable division record last year. No excuses this year. I will say Matt's had a great overall success within the division. So I think last year was a one-off, and hopefully they get back to their winning ways this year. 1 second. All right. So Matt knows he has a slow start narrative, but against division rivals, I expect there will be a sense of urgency this camp and preseason. I think there's going to be a sense of urgency, period. End of story. Regardless of division or who they play early on, I think they're going to want those early games against Detroit and Washington and get off to a great start this year. Big difference for Green Bay. We have had quarterbacks forever, so love the lottery. Fair enough. You guys ever listen to Andy on 0.5 speed? It's hilarious. I don't want to know what that sounds like. I have had many people tell me that I'm like the one person. So if most people listen to podcasts at 1.5 or some get it to 2.0, that I'm the one person that they can't speed up because I talk fast as it is. I say this a lot, but I'll say it again. I talk fast when I'm excited. It's not like a nervous thing. It's not I feel uncomfortable if we need to talk a little bit slower. If we wanted to talk a little bit slower, have a little bit more of an intimate conversation, we can do so. It's not a problem. I talk fast when I'm excited. And it just so happens that when I'm talking about the Packers, I am excited pretty much every single time. So you get to hear me talk fast. And I actually like it. As somebody who listens to podcasts at 1.5 speed, I really enjoy people who talk fast and are kind of getting their point across sooner rather than later. But it's not going to change. This is the way that I talk. This is the way that I speak. Hopefully don't hate me for it. But if you want to slow it down, apparently do it at 0.5 speed. And I do not want to know what that sounds like. Lions with new coordinators. I like them week 1. Again, there's probably a plus minus here. The plus is that they may not have that rhythm and consistency yet. The minus is that you have no tape to go off of and no tendencies or scouting reports to kind of base any of your defensive and offensive approach to going against those coordinators with. Have us beating the Lions and then losing a shootout to the Commanders. All right. When I did a quick one, I had them losing week 1 to the Lions and then quickly going 3-0 in their next 3 games, and everyone forgets about it really quick. Andy, what are the chances Belton beats out Ryan at right guard this season? Possible. I still think that there's a good chance that we see a rotation at left tackle with Walker and Morgan and a rotation at right guard with Belton and Ryan. That's what I think. But listen, there's going to be great competition. I'm sure injuries will play a part in all of this, and we'll see who kind of steps up. It's tough to say with Belton yet before we even get any sort of, practice reps, but I really like him on tape. I think he's going to have some mauling mentality, and I do think a rotation at right guard and left tackle could potentially make a lot of sense. Rather have a tough game early, would hate taking a loss to a cupcake to start the year. I just want to win to start the year. That's all I want. Just take the win, figure it out no matter what. Let's see. We talked about that. Let's see. Booked our trip from Pennsylvania to Green Bay with 4 buddies to watch Green Bay versus Washington week 2. Cannot wait. That should be a great one, Jesse. Enjoy the heck out of that. Thursday Night Football in September. So if I talked about October, but man, September football in Green Bay is king, especially in a night game. That's going to be an epic atmosphere. When are we having the drunken Q&A that you promised us? I will do it. I promise. I don't have a time yet, but there will come a point in time where we do a real true like Packers and beers night or something like that, and we just all watch me get drunk, and we'll maybe make some drinking game out of it with super chats or something like that. We'll make it fun, I promise. But I'm all for it. I think it would be a ton of fun. Packers versus Love versus Pittsburgh could be fun. Totally with you. 12-5 sounds right. I'm cussing the Packers bad luck. Their lack of readiness because the starters don't play in the preseason and they generally have their heads up their asses. That's Matt LaFleur's fault. Again, I don't think they came out slow or poor against Philly last year. I think they lost a really tough, close game against a very good team. 1 week, 2. It's definitely been an issue over his time in Green Bay. It's a fair assessment. But I don't think it's something they take lightly. And again, I do think it's a double-edged sword depending on what you want to do in preseason. And I don't think there's a great answer one way or the other. Dobbs needs to be on the field. I don't think Dobbs has had a huge injury history, has he? Let's see. Romeo. I mean, obviously, I have the concussions. I know that. But I mean, like in total games played. Let's see. In 2024, he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games. In 2023, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 games. And in 2022, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. So 13, 14, 19, like we're not talking about like major injury issues here. Watson has, but I wouldn't put a ton on Dobbs from a health standpoint. The Bills gave Shakir that contract to stay. Doesn't mean someone else would have paid him that. He would have got more on the open market than he got with Buffalo. I mean, that's just how it works. And you're on the open market and everyone's competing for you. You're going to get more on the open market. So don't buy that. I think you've actually would have gotten not a ton more, but more had he got the open market. Packers aren't going to overpay Dobbs unless he's a prime Devontae year. No, they will not, but he'll get paid at least the Shakir sort of contract, assuming he has a good season this year. Love the wide receiver competition. Me too. Engine, thank you very much for the kind words. Packers start the season with a full month at home. Week 3 preseason, off week 1, week 2. Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. To me, the start of the season is week 1. So I think of it a little bit differently, but they do. I do like the fact that they have 2 of their 3 preseason games at home and the other one's just in Indy. So a very just hop, skip, and a jump away from taking a plane ride to Indy. So I do like that they don't have to really do any traveling, for the preseason and then get those 2 home games, back-to-back road games, but it's to Cleveland and Dallas, nothing too far. And then you've got a bye week and another home game. So they're not going to go far to start the season. That's for sure. Will Malik Willis leave after this year? Do you think the Packers extend him? I've talked about this a lot, but if I were Malik Willis or his agent, I would go elsewhere. The quarterback position is spoken for in Green Bay, and there will be positions where that is not the case elsewhere, whether Malik Willis gets a real opportunity to just start or whether or not he's going to at least just go to a place where maybe there's a rookie starter where they need a stopgap guy, or you just go to a place that doesn't have a good starter. There's going to be better opportunities for him somewhere else. And this is his opportunity to maybe get his chance. So if I were his agent or if I were Malik Willis, as much as I maybe like the situation in Green Bay, if I ever want the opportunity to be a true legitimate starter, at least have the opportunity to maybe get a shot during the season, I'm probably going to go elsewhere next year. Very deep roster other than corner. I mean, a lot of that depends on what happens with Jair. If Jair is back, I feel a lot better about that corner room. If he's not, then it obviously becomes much more of an issue. Jair Alexander will play all 17 games. That's only if he gets released, or all good. If he's released, he will play 20 plus games and have an all-pro season wherever he goes. If he stays, unfortunately, he's only going to play 4 games. It's just how these things go. I'm being facetious, of course, but that's how those things work. If our 7th pick or one of our UDFAs become a stud, watch out. Sure. Give me another Sam Shields. Sign me up for that. You still get to see Lambeau Field week 1, though. I do. Trust me, OC54, not complaining in any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, if I'm laying out my perfect week 1 scenario, 315 at home is probably not it, but trust me, I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. Our 7th round pick, yep, we just talked about that. Go to Carolina, all about the win, makes you feel good. Early November, noon, book it. It's not a bad option. Going to away Dallas game, September 28th. Heck yeah, take over Dallas. Lambeau Part 2, Lambeau South. Love versus injury versus Philadelphia caused the loss. You certainly could make that argument. Could have had that comeback at the end. Now everyone is going to go for Bengals tickets. Well, you've only got 347 people in chat, 352 now to compete against. So hopefully, Ben, I didn't cause too much of an issue there. Yeah, I mean, Love's just got to win in general. The team's got to win in general. It's not just a Jordan Love thing, as Matt will always say. Am I wrong, or is the first year in a while that we don't have more than 2 road games in a row before a home game? They've had a lot of road games to start the season. I don't know about 2 in a row, but it's certainly rare to see them play 2 of their first games at home. That's definitely a new one. Do you know when the team will make known when practices will be open to public? Been a fan for over 30 years, but I've never been to Wisconsin. I think it's time. Would like to see it. Definitely get to a training camp. It's a ton of fun. But I want to say that they release it like end of June, early July. Wondering if I have an email from last year. Let's see here. I don't think that I have an email, or at least not easily about it. Last year, June 10th was when they announced family night. Oh, here it was. June 4th. June 4th is, I think, when they announced it last year. Right around there, at least. So probably a little bit less than a month is when we should get some sort of training camp schedule, would be my guess. I think that's right around that time. So keep an eye right around them. All right. Been a long time since the home opener game. Yes. I'm choosing practice over games just because I think I'd be able to see the players more clearly for the purpose of understanding. It's always worth it. Get to a training camp practice if you can. It's definitely fun. Packers' new D-line coach being the biggest impact. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That'd be awesome. Do you think we need to go get another tight end number 3? Or are you happy with the ones we have on the roster? I'm kind of worried because of the drop off after Luke. I'm fine with Ben Sims and with Fitzpatrick. Yes, Fitzpatrick being the 2 behind it, behind Kraft and Musgrave. I wouldn't hate if they went out and got one more body for that to kind of go out and compete. Hoping Messiah Swinson can take another step as somebody who can get into that competition as well. But I'm okay with it for now. Don't love it. Don't hate it. Mostly indifferent, but I'm not concerned about it in any way. I'll put it that way. Biggest trap game? I could see Arizona being that, especially if it's Rodgers and the Steelers in week 8. You got the Bengals at home with Joe Burrow. You've got the Steelers away with the Rodgers game. Going to Arizona in the middle of that in the heat could definitely be a trap game. Carolina as well. It's a home game, so I feel better about that. But you go to, again, potentially playing Rodgers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football, and the week later is the Eagles on Monday Night Football. That could definitely be a trap game. New York, I'm going to say New York, actually. You go to New York. They've been a team that they've struggled with for weird, bizarro reasons. They have not done great against New York as of late. So they go to New York, coming off a Monday night game. So they have Monday against Philly, a very tough game on Monday night, short week against the Giants. Giants have a 1-game rest advantage in that game. And then the following week is Minnesota at home. So, and then you have a short week against Detroit right after that. So I think in that 4-game stretch, Eagles, Giants, Vikings, and Lions in a very short period of time, I'm going to say that Giants game is the one that could potentially be the trap game. Also worth noting, November 10th to November 27th. That's a 17-day stretch, 4 games in 17 days. Eagles on Monday night, the 10th. The Lions Thursday, the 27th. 18 days technically. Four games in 18 days. And it's not easy ones either. Philly at New York, Minnesota at Detroit. 4 games in 18 days. So big one to kind of keep an eye on there. Any feel for the toughest 3 to 4 game stretch yet? Oh, well, that one we just talked about. I think that you could make an argument for end of year at Denver, at Chicago, Baltimore at home, at Minnesota. That's certainly there. Again, Philly at New York, Minnesota at Detroit in 18 days, 4 games in 18 days. Those would probably be the 2 that immediately come to mind. At Dallas, Cincinnati, at Arizona, at Pittsburgh. That's a 3 out of 4 on the road. You do have a bye week in there as well, but that's a little bit of a tougher stretch. But yeah, I'd probably go with one of those 2 that I just mentioned. Arizona's the biggest trap game yet. We talked about that one. Backup center makes the 53. Jacob Monk certainly could, right? All right, let's get back to 8:44 when we come back here. I think we had a couple super chats. All right, from Ryan, why does it seem like Green Bay plays the Bears late in the season every year? Well, they play a lot more, divisional games usually later in the season. So I don't think that that's anything out of the ordinary. It is weird that they play 2 of 3 weeks in against Chicago. Weeks 14 and 16 are both Bears games. That's a little bit strange, but not unheard of. That does happen from time to time where you play the same team twice in 3 weeks. But yeah, I don't have an answer for that other than just, again, usually you do play some of the divisional games later in the season. She said, Joey, I missed your super chat. No, I hit your, does Gersma count against the international pathway slot? I hit that one. Unless there was another one that I missed. She said, Joey, I did talk about that one, but he does not, because the Canadian players do not count for the international pathway program. So did adjust that or address that one. But if I missed another one, let me know and I apologize, but I don't have anything else in my list here that showed up. So sorry if I missed it. Carla, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships, and Mo State of Minnesota. Thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. You guys are freaking rock stars. 1.4 is the sweet spot for me. All right. I love it. Same NFC North record as last year. No, they'll do better this year. You enunciate clearly. There are those that talk slow and are hard to understand. I appreciate that, Ben. Must have been my years as a choir boy that I've really been paying off. Krause talks faster. Interesting. I don't think I knew that. Number 1 pick in Morgan, disappointing if not a starter this year. I'm always willing to give the benefit of the doubt to see what he does in his career. And I think he's going to play this year one way or the other. So I think he'll play. I think he'll play well. I think he'll be a valuable person on this team. Whether he lives up to the first round moniker, we'll have to kind of wait and see. But I'm still very confident that Morgan's going to be a valuable player for this team. I usually do 1.5 for most podcasts, but I don't necessarily have to with your stuff. So that's a plus. There you go. Definitely doing a drunken Q&A. I'm drunk every game anyway. Perfect. Love it. Green and Goldschlager. There you go. Well done. For the record, I will never do Goldschlager. There's not a super chat large enough to get me to do Goldschlager. That is what we referred to kindly with my college friends as Andy's Night of 1,000 Pukes. This is a true story. This is a very college story. So if you guys are familiar back in the day with the WWE SmackDown video games, we had it set up in our dorm room where we would have, I swear to God, we would have 6-person ladder matches. We had this is at the time where you had to have there were these extenders where you could get more players. So because it only comes with 2 slots, so you could buy the 4-player extenders and plug them into each, so you could get up to 8 players. And the SmackDown games were able to do it. We were able to get up to 6 players on SmackDown, and we would be in this tiny dorm room, and there'd be 6 of us that were playing these WWE SmackDown games, and it would be a ladder match. And when I tell you that these things are some of the most epic things that I've ever experienced in my life, these things, they would be like hour long. Like if you were watching them, it would probably be like a 5-star, 7-star match. These things were like hour long. We would get done with these matches. We would leave this tiny dorm room. We would just be sweating. It was exhausting. It was nuts. All right, I digress. On one of these, we decided to do a drinking game where every time you got hit with a weapon, you had to do a drink. So if you got hit with a weapon, you had to do a drink. These are like hour-long matches, let me remind you. However, I didn't do beer at the time. I only did shots. And it just so happened that on this particular day, I had a brand new shiny bottle of Goldschlager in my dorm room. So as a very smart, well-educated college man from UW Oshkosh would suggest, I said, if I get hit with a weapon every 5 times, I will do a shot of Goldschlager. Everyone else is doing a sip of beer. If I get hit with a weapon 5 times, I will do a shot of Goldschlager. Long story short, about 12 to 15 shots of Goldschlager later, in about a 45-minute period of time, we decided it was time to go out. So I go out, we walk all the way to this house party. I get to the house party and things are massively spinning. And I somehow made it back to the dorms. And then that was what we call the night of 1,000 pukes. I fell asleep on the toilet in the dorms and woke up every hour for about 23 hours, threw up on the hour every hour, and then finally made it, my way back, fell asleep in my bed. And the rest was history. But that was not a fun time. And we do not do Goldschlager ever since then. So that is my Goldschlager story. Matt LaFleur's situational play has to be on point this year. Ben Johnson's comments has to be taken personally. I'm sure Matt, for the most part, lets that roll off of him, but I'm sure he'll have a little bit extra motivation. And I don't have any major concerns about Matt LaFleur's play calling. That's the least of my concerns going into the season. Vincent's got anxiety. There's good stuff for that. Try Goldschlager. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I'm scared of planes. I don't love planes either, if I'm being honest. Let's see. Gabe Davis got paid and got cut almost a year later. It can happen. Andy needs something to take my mind off hockey. Leafs are doing poorly. What do we got for scores here? I haven't been keeping track of tonight's games. So Wolves up by 5 on the Warriors. Celtics, big win, 25-point win against the Knicks without Tatum. That is wild. That is a crazy result. What do we got in hockey? We've got the Panthers beating the Maple Leafs 6-1, Florida taking a 3-2 lead, and now Vegas trying to stay alive against Edmonton. I'm going to turn that on as soon as we get done here. Mark can't find a loss on the schedule. I don't blame you. 17-0, probably going to be the first 20-0 team ever in the history of football. And how do you think the secondary fares if Jair gets traded, and who do you think will be cornerback 1? Nixon will be sort of corner 1, but Nixon and Hobbs and Valentine will all play a ton. But Nixon and Hobbs will probably be those guys. I've got depth concerns with the secondary if Jair is gone, certainly. And I just think you lose some of your ceiling in that defensive back room if Jair is gone. So not freaking out, but definitely some concerns with the depth. And, they're going to probably need to add something a little bit more there, either via trade, free agency, something. We'll see. I know Asante Samuel's going through some neck stuff. He's not really their type that fits in their defense at all. So I don't see it, but he might just be the best value out there. I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see how they may sort of go about figuring out a way to upgrade that corner room if need be. Looking forward to the battle for roster spots this year during preseason. I already got my tickets to the first preseason game. Love that, Autumn. That should be a ton of fun. I told you, undefeated preseason, although I do think they got some tough preseason matchups because you figure, Justin Fields could play a decent amount for the Jets in that first game. We'll see. The Colts, you are going to get both Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. So I would expect both of those quarterbacks to play a decent amount in that game, especially with it being the second preseason game. So that could make it tough. And then you're likely going to get a huge helping of the Seahawks third round pick. I can't think of his name, from Alabama. Jalen Milroe. Thank you. Jalen Milroe, as we're probably going to get a ton of him, which is not probably a super easy matchup either. So I'm a little less confident in my undefeated preseason prediction. Not, again, that it matters at all, but I'm still very bullish on what they're going to look like in preseason. Let's see. Am I missing super chat somehow? I don't think so. Jerry, we got Jerry. Thanks for the show. Packers have so many unknowns. If everything clicks, watch out. I'm right there with you. So I don't think I missed any other ones. My apologies if I did, but it's not showing up. All right. Looking forward to the 3 home games in a row, postseason before the road game in Santa Clara. Love that, Michael. Carlo with the W. All good. Got the super chat. That's awesome. Or the membership, I should say. Clark's listening at 1.75. Devin got his first gifted. That's awesome. Packers Lions Thanksgiving started at 4:51. Holy crap. That's a pretty penny. Ryan got a gifted. That's awesome. How do you feel about most of these division games coming so late in the season? I would much rather it be late in the season. I actually do not like a division game week 1. I've been a proponent of this for a long time and still stand by it. Week 1 should be interconference for every team. I really truly believe that. Teams aren't really playing in the preseason as much anymore. And while the interconference games still count against your record, right? They're the least important. They're not going to be an NFC tiebreaker. They're not, if you lose to them, you're not losing to an NFC team to give them a win in your conference. And it's not going to be a division game or a division tiebreaker, which are your most important games. I really dislike the situation where you've got like first, second week division games. I just think they're too important and teams aren't like seasoned yet at that point. I wish those were a little bit later. And if it were me, I would make a rule that every week 1 game is going to be AFC versus NFC. Like you could come up with really like Bengals Packers would be an awesome opening week game. Packers Steelers would be an awesome opening week game. Like there's plenty of like really good interconference games that you could still put on that schedule. And if I were commissioner, that would be my rule change. Every single week 1 game is going to be interconference or interconference. So I just think allows the team to get their feet set a little bit more in a game that still matters, still counts against your record, but it's the least important of your season games. And I just think that would be good policy for everyone and push the division games later. I just think it makes it that you're playing for more at that point. And those rivalries kind of make it so that those games are important no matter what, regardless of records as well. That 13-day stretch is going to be brutal, tough way to make a playoff push. Hey, everyone's got some part of, difficult aspect of their schedule. Just got to find a way to work through it. I was not a huge fan of it, if I'm being honest. It was just, it went for weird vibes rather than like anything else. I don't know. It's fine. It doesn't really matter to me either way, I guess, but it was not my cup of tea. After the Eagles at Packers, we are in for it. We'll see. I'm all for it. Nick got a membership. Packers are going 5-1 in the division. Lewis, I love the optimism. Do you think the NFC North will be the toughest division in the NFL? And also, what game would you say is the toughest one on our schedule? Toughest game on the schedule, I'm going to say Packers at Lions on Thanksgiving. Again, we talked about it. That's their 4th game in 18 days. Plus, you go on the road Thanksgiving game against Detroit, tough opponent. I'll put that as the toughest one on the calendar. And then I do think the NFC North, if not the toughest division, is at very minimum in the conversation for it. It should be a really, really fun division to see play out. I can still do Rumpelmans. I don't have any other. I had another Night of 1,000 Pukes with Kessler's. That's another one. But Kessler's and Goldschlager are my only ones completely off limits. I didn't expect to get a story out of it, but yay. Did LaFleur himself ever play football? Yes. He was a quarterback previously. He played, what was it, in Upper Michigan? He, as a professional, played for the Omaha Beef and the Billings Outlaws. Omaha Beef of the Professional Indoor League, and then the Billings Outlaws, also the Professional Indoor League. So he actually made it to some indoor football level. He played at Western Michigan and Saginaw Valley State, and then went to high school in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. So yeah, he was a quarterback in his time, and again, actually made it to semi-professional football. Or I guess, is that still professional football? I guess professional football, right? Is an indoor football player. I got Oilers in a $50 bracket. Try not to worry about hockey also. Hey, they're a fun team. That's a good team to have. Need to find a way to get Luigi's Pizza down here to Mexico to celebrate the perfect season. If they have a perfect season, if they go 20-0, remind me of this, and I will ship you. We'll find a way to ship you some Luigi's Pizzas in Mexico. Yeah, there we go. Mo State of Minnesota beat me to it. I didn't even see that. Mo State of Minnesota. That's amazing. Who do you have going to the NBA Finals? Thunder Pacers. I'm gonna say Thunder Pacers. I think the Pacers are playing out of their damn minds. If they get cold from three, that would be my only concern. They've been like unbelievably hot from three, where if like that all of a sudden cools, they're gonna, I think, really go through it, especially against New York. Or if it's Boston, then the Pacers should just win without Tatum. But I'm gonna assume it's Pacers and Knicks. I'm gonna say Pacers end up winning that as long as they don't go cold from three. And then I'm gonna say the Thunder still take the West, but I think that Denver still could win that, but I think I don't know that they're going to beat the Thunder back to back. And I'll take the Thunder over the Wolves, but I do think the Wolves are playing really good basketball right now. But I'm going to say Thunder Pacers in the finals. No division games week 1. I'm right there. All right, there we go. You're going to the parade, so you can pick some up on your way. Yeah, there you go, Saginaw Valley. I'll buy you a drink then instead. Love it. Which of our draft picks do you think will have the best chance of being a Pro Bowler on offense and defense? Like this year or ever? If you just want to clarify that, J Money, you have a couple seconds here, but clarify if you mean this year or ever. As a Mexican, I don't know if I can risk smuggling one there. That's totally fair. Totally fair. All right, let's think about this. Draft picks do you think have the best chance of being a Pro Bowler on offense and defense? Ever. Okay, so J Money says ever. Certainly, I mean, Golden's the easiest one on offense, but Savion Williams' upside is massive. So he certainly has the opportunity. And I definitely think that if, Belton hits his ceiling as well, he could certainly be there. But I'll say Golden is the most obvious one. Defensively, I guess I'll say Baron Sorrell. I mean, if you look at the ones that the players that Justice posted that have the similar height, weight, speed profile as Sorrell, like there's some really good players in that. So I'll say Baron Sorrell on defense and probably the Texas kids, right? That's probably the easiest. I'm taking chalk here, but I'll go with the Texas kids. Just feeling so good about defense this year. We are truly great last year, especially late. Should have beat Philly. Offense bolstered the O-line that failed us last year and more weapons at running back and wide receiver. I like the positivity. All good. I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a very good team. Now they just have to put everything together and be the team that we think they can be in 2025 and hopefully beyond. Should be a very, very fun season. All right, friends, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a ton of fun. We'll figure out a time to do the Drunk Packers podcast at some point. That should be also a crap load of fun. Just no Goldschlager, no Kesslers, and we should be in good spirits. No pun intended. Back tomorrow for members Q&A. Back Friday for happy hour. And yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about on the show tomorrow from a schedule standpoint. We'll break everything down in great detail. And then I'm going to go through, I think, the biggest winners and losers of this offseason for the Packers, just kind of when it comes to like a competition standpoint, who's better set up for success, who's worse set up, and those sort of things. So go over that over the course of the next couple of days. Should be a lot of fun topics. If anything breaks, we'll go over that as well, meaning breaking news. Hopefully nothing breaks from a Packers standpoint. But I'll talk to you guys all very, very soon. Thank you so much for being here tonight. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.